Welcome to the Tournament Poker Edge podcast, brought to you by TournamentPokerEdge.com, the only podcast dedicated exclusively to tournament poker strategy. And now, here are your hosts, Ron Fezbuddy and Killingbird.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Tournament Poker Edge podcast. I'm Killingbird here with Ron Fezbuddy, as always. How are you doing today, man?
There's no poker, so I'm not.
It's not a good time.
No, I'm just kidding. There is poker. I've been playing on Merge. What about you, buddy?
Yeah, I've been playing as well. I finally was able to get some money onto Carbon Poker, and I've already doubled my bankroll there. So I love me some Carbon Poker.
Ooh. Still on the hot streak, huh?
Well, I still got a long way to come back from my last downswing, so
yeah.
Not getting too excited yet, but I'm just happy to be playing. I mean, I only deposited a little bit of money, so I'm just kind of playing pretty small, just trying to build up a roll, and until I hear. I'm actually hearing some positive stories about cash outs and stuff, but I'm not going to get too crazy with building up a huge amount of money on there until I know I can get it off.
Right. Yeah. I don't know if you saw my tweet the other night, but I got up to 8 tables the other night across.
Wow.
Across Merge, Bodog, and Cake.
That's right, because you're playing on all 3 sites. I'm only playing on the one.
Playing on all 3. I've had money on Bod. I don't know what Bod. Actually, I do know what Bodog depositing is like because I was talking to someone. A lot of people say they're not having any problem getting it on Bodog, but they also have like a buy a phone card link and then just put in your phone card number. And so that seems to work for people. But I had money from. I got my first big. So, kind of have a little soft spot in my heart for the dog.
Yeah.
But I don't have a lot. I have like $200 on there, so I have to be very careful about what I'm playing. And then I have a couple $100 on Cake. I've had that for a while. And I put a couple $100 on Players Only, which is a merge skin. I couldn't get my money on Carbon, and rather than just like wait and try to figure it out like a lot of people did, I just tried another skin, Players Only, and I was able to get it on there. But Players Only is no longer taking new U.S. residents, so I think Carbon is the only way to go, or Lock Poker I think might be the other one.
Right.
So across 3 sites, I was 8 tabling. I've actually been doing pretty. I've doubled my bankroll too, which is cool. I find the sites pretty soft. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I was talking about this with a couple of our members the other night in the chat room, and we were saying how we kind of thought it might actually be kind of tough because the people playing there could be made up a lot of people who are serious enough about online poker that they've gone through the trouble to find a new site to play on and to get the money on the site. But if that's the case, then apparently they're not very good because the play is very soft. Of course, I'm also playing even lower stakes than I played before. So
yeah, I think that's part of it too. Yeah, I mean, I agree. I'm a little confused by it because I thought the same thing, but I do find the play to be pretty soft. And it was, if you jumped in right after Black Friday, because I deposited like on the 18th on Players Only, and I had my money on Bodog and Cake. I think it's getting a little tougher now. I think people are, the better players are starting to come over, but still very soft. At first, it was really super simple.
Yeah.
What I do like though is that they do have Merge does have a nightly PLO tournament, which is fun. I mean, it gets like, 70 runners, 75 runners, but I final tabled it twice already, and I took second in it, like the first time I played it. after recording that video with Halo Wax. He's brilliant at PLO, and it really helped me understand the game. So we'll get in. We should talk a little bit here about, and talk to the pros about the structures and what kind of game selections offered. But it's not stars, it's not full tilt. But if you got to get your DGen fix, there is an outlet. And I've been playing a couple nights a week, not as much as I was before, but definitely getting to play. And I think the biggest question for a lot of people is, what's cash out's going to be like? Have you heard much about that?
I've kind of been scouring the forums a little bit and stuff to see, and I've heard from some people who have Well, like I know I saw one the other day that said, okay, I just got a check from, I think it was Players Only actually, and they said now let's see if it clears. So I think we're going to find out here pretty soon. I think because enough time has passed that people have started cashing out and have had enough time for their banks to clear the checks and stuff. But
Yeah, I think the general consensus is that first off, the sites have to grow a lot bigger before the DOJ goes after them.
right,
And the sites should be rationally avoiding the same practices that Stars and Full Tilt took and AP took to process transactions cheaper than they could have done without hassle. So, general consensus is that, Stars and Full Tilt, they did some things that helped them get things done cheaper. And if they had stayed away from those things, it would have been a lot harder to do anything to them. There would have been a lot less of a flagrant breaking of the law. So if they do that, it should be, at least for a while, it should be okay. And I have a friend who actually got his money from Emerge Skin and took money out and cashed it and it worked. So,
yeah,
look, I think the bottom line is don't put money in that is really serious to you, right? If you let your Stars roll back, I wouldn't just go dump it all in Merge. I would take this opportunity to put a little bit in and sort of give yourself a bankroll challenge. That's kind of what I'm doing, and that's what I'm doing.
Yeah, pretty much what I did as well. I think I put about 10% into Carbon as what I had on all the sites before.
I was just going to say that. I was actually just about to say that. Yeah, I think I have about I think about 5% of my previous roll.
Yeah.
Even less than that maybe. And I'm trying, I'm trying to build it. I'm being a little less cautious with my bankroll management. I don't know about you, but I'm not following, 200 average buy-ins. And, it's kind of tricky because I have, 200 on one site, 400 on another site, 300 on another site or whatever. And theoretically, I would say, well, my total bankroll is whatever, over $1,000, or I think it's slightly under or slightly over $1,000. So theoretically, I should be playing a $5 average buy-in. But it's not easy to move money across sites, right? So, if you go busto on Bodog, it's not like I'm going to get someone to transfer to me money on Bodog. So I'm not sure if those rules apply yet. I'm pretty sure those rules don't apply. You probably should be keeping each site as a separate role for bankroll management purposes.
Right.
And we'll see what the pros have to say about that. But my gut says that's what you probably should do because it's not easy to do a transfer. But you also have to realistically think, is what's on there your actual role? So if that $200, if I bust that $200 on Bodog, be honest with you, I'm going to put another $200 on there.
Right.
It's not the end of my role. It's different when, I have a couple $1,000s in Stars and, you need $2,000, you need a couple $1,000s to play, to be staked, to play tournaments of a certain size. But when you're playing with a couple $100, I like poker enough that I'm probably going to redeposit. So I've been playing the $10, $12 on Bodog, even though my roll is anywhere between $200 and $300, which I know is not. It's like catastrophic bankroll management, but the games are soft enough where and I can deposit more where I'm just like whatever. I feel halfway between a recreational and a professional right now, where I'm willing to recreationally put more money in on a Friday night or something and just load up a bunch of tournaments just because I want to, and it doesn't affect my life all that much.
Yeah, I think you're right. As long as you're willing to put more money on, and there's no reason you can't play a little bit above your normal bankroll requirements. So I guess the question you have to ask yourself is, you might be willing to put the money on, but are you going to be able to get the money on?
Yeah.
Right. Because I've talked to people who said, oh yeah, I signed up for such and such poker room and I used my Visa card and boom, I had the money. It was no problem.
Yeah.
And then when I tried to sign up for Carbon and for Lock, I tried every credit card in my possession and none of them worked. So
yeah, it's really hard to say. It depends on the bank. It depends on their methods. Jesus Christ, can't we just get legalized, regulated poker?
Yeah, no kidding, right?
Do we really need to go through this? Do you and I really need to go through this to play some friggin' poker?
Yeah.
Well,
it's a little frustrating.
there are some bright spots. So on Black Friday, I remember talking to one of our buddies, Tomek. You know Tomek.
Yep.
And my prediction was within 6 months, some sort of legislation, close progress to legislation, and within 2 years, poker again. And that was a gut feeling, just because I feel like there's too much money on the table, and there's too many big interests that can profit from this. And then as time went on, I said, okay, that was probably a little optimistic, because as we learned more about how these things went about and looked at the reality of politically, what are we going to get a lot of Congress people to really vote for poker, right? Because it's everything to us, but does it really matter to a congressman who could be afraid, that they're in an upcoming election year where you see an ad, who wants an ad saying John Smith wants to lose your house or something, you know what I mean?
Right.
That's the problem. It's a toxic issue. It's everything to us. We know it's a skill game. It's important to us, but to the average person, it doesn't mean a lot. And it's actually, it's a net negative to vote for it for a lot of Congress people. So right. At first I thought, all right, well, I'm probably being a little too optimistic, but I just felt like in my gut, there's, is so much money to be made. And we had so much progress in the months leading up to Black Friday with, the states. If the people who don't follow that, there was a lot of progress at the state level. California was putting a lot of activity around interstate California poker. New Jersey was putting a lot of activity around interstate New Jersey poker. The bill got rejected by the governor, but still it made it all the way to the governor. So there was progress there. The District of Columbia actually passed interdistrict poker, which it's a small district, so I don't know how big the games would be, but they passed that. And then Nevada started talking about, well, we're going to license companies in Nevada to serve the whole world. And so there's so much progress being made at that front. And then, you start to feel the casinos were starting to partner with PokerStars and Full Tilt. So I just felt like there was so much progress pre-Black Friday. There's too much money on the table, and it just smelled too much to me like, well, this gets the competitors out of the way. So let's, not to put the tinfoil hat on, but let's, could the casinos have had anything better happen for them?
Right, it's a good point.
If a casino wants, the American casinos want to get legalized American U.S. poker, well, what would be better than getting rid of Stars at Full Tilt and AP, right? I mean, it's just, you crush your competition from the beginning. So I just felt like, when Black Friday happened, it sucked, but I just kind of, in my heart of hearts, felt, well, something's going to happen. But then as time went on, I started to feel a little less optimistic. Just because I started thinking about the toxicity of poker legislation. Nothing had happened much. We haven't really seen a ton of progress, but this week I think we're starting to see some progress. So the AGA, are you familiar with them?
Only from the article that you linked me to. Okay,
so I tweeted this. I think I tweeted this yesterday. If not, I'll tweet it when we get off the podcast. The AGA is I think it's the American Gaming Association or Gambling Association. They are the lobby organization for the casinos. They are the political arm of the casinos, and they have quite a bit of influence. They're American Gaming Organization. So they announced that they were going to be in Washington this week pushing online poker and promoting and going out to lobbying for online poker. This is not the PPA. The PPA, I think they have their hearts in the right place. I think they've done a lot for the poker players, but these guys represent the industry where the big bucks are represented. And they're out there selling online poker. And Gary Loveman did an editorial, I think, in Business Week selling online poker. Gary Loveman is the CEO of Harrah's. I mean, this is the movement we need to see. And then just last night, the AGA put out their white paper on legislating. They call it Online Gambling 5 Years After the UIGEA. and it's a white paper released to the government and to lawmakers on what their recommendation is, what this current situation is, and what their recommendation is for legislation. And it is a very well-written, very detailed outline of where online poker is today and what the opportunities are for America in online poker, and their recommendation on how to go about taking advantage of that and creating legislation around it. And I'll give you a quick summary here. So basically, they summarize, what happened with the DOJ and first of all, the UIAGA and what the situation has been like in the last 5 years. And, remember, this is the American Gambling Association, so this is the casinos, not painting the best picture of Stars in Full Tilt, just kind of, putting it out there. These guys were, skirting laws, but people love poker is basically the bottom line is, with all the complications, this grew into a $30 billion industry.
Yeah.
And Americans continue to play poker even today. So they even talk about, the merges and the bow dogs and the cakes. There are other sites, and they actually reference PokerScout.com, which does the, traffic. It tracks the traffic on sites,
right.
And they talk about the increase. I think merge is up 29%, bow dog 19%, within a range of 17 to 29%. I think each of the sites. So it's a very well informed report, and talking about, it's not stopping. People want to play poker. Secondly, they talk about, and I think this is really one of the key pieces of what they've written, is they talk about the tools that have been developed to regulate online gambling, and protect the values, that we want to make sure are protected if we have legalized, regulated online gambling, excluding underage gamblers, protecting the integrity of the game from cheating, from ultimate bet scandals in the future, making sure that if online gaming is prohibited somewhere, it's not it can't be spread there, barring money laundering, and then providing tools for problem gamblers to control their own gambling. And they spend a lot of time in this white paper on what's available already and how they could be distributed effectively across the land. And then they talk about what kind of boost to the economy that a regulated online poker industry would provide, how it protects consumers better than what's available today, how it grows jobs and means new tax revenues. So this report came out at 2:30 last night a.m. and I was just going to bed. I'm a night owl, and I decided to read it, so I was up till 3:30, and I did some cliff notes of it on 2+2. There's two things that I think are of interest, though, in terms of how this would play out. First off, I can't tell from the language if it's an opt-in or an opt-out for the individual states. And that's an important point. So are you familiar with the opt-in, opt-out sort of?
Yes, unfortunately, because I live in the South, so it means something to me.
Right. So, there have been varying versions of potential regulation. And so each version has had differences in whether, if it's a federal bill, well, that means, what they're going to leave it to the states whether or not they want to be part of this. But the key difference is, do states have to opt into the bill, into the regulations, or do they have to opt out? And that means a lot, because doing either one of those things requires a lot of effort at the state level. So whatever the default is what most states will be. So if the default is that they have to opt out, that means that they're in, and they have to go through the process of opting out, voting, bringing it to legislation, actually proving that. I'm sure in some states it's going to be a pretty slam dunk that they're going to opt out, where they have the fear of God that poker is going to ruin everyone's lives. But for most states, it's a big revenue boost here, and it's not going to be the easiest thing in the world to opt out. So if they have to opt out, then most states will have online poker. Right. If they have to opt in, you face a similar challenge in proving that it's a good thing. So, inertia rules, and whatever is written into the laws. So I can't tell if they're pushing opt-in or opt-out. The language is a little ambiguous, and in one place of it says that it feels like they have to opt in, and the other place it feels like they have to opt out. So I can't really tell.
Gotcha.
Sure, more clarity will come over the time. Time to come. But next, the other key component I think here that is important is that they are, from the language, pretty clearly limiting it to U.S. only player base. I don't know if you got that or not. If you read that yet. It looks like they're limiting it to a U.S. only player base. And so it says here, any overseas operators who are already serving large numbers of online poker players would have a substantial liquidity advantage if they can combine new American customers with their existing pool of players. So they're basically saying that it's going to be hard to compete for the new, Harrah's and MGM and Win, whatever, with not even necessarily PokerStars, because PokerStars, they're probably going to write in that PokerStars and Full Tilt can't get a license because of their evasive actions. But
right.
Party Poker or BWin or whatever, I think those guys merged. They're basically saying that those sites can't come in and bring their merged pools because it just gives them too much of an advantage. It says here the increased liquidity would allow them to offer much more attractive range of games and tournaments in the early months following legalization. To avoid that unfair advantage, both France and Italy have barred their licensees from pooling customers from within their countries with foreign customers. The United States will be well advised to follow that model. So they're basically, first of all, France and Italy, I don't know if they really did that to I guess maybe I don't know if they did it for the specific reasons that this report is kind of purporting, but
right.
But they're basically saying let's follow that model, let's leave it in the U.S. and first of all, I'll take it, right? Whatever. I mean, at first glance, well, you want the big, you want the status, what used to be there, right? But some people chimed into on the 2+2 thread about this and exported some pretty good points. A U.S. only pool actually might be not so bad for good players. You get rid of all the Europeans are progressing, the South Americans are progressing, the Australians, the New Zealand, wherever poker is available is, those people are getting better and better. If this becomes legal, then it's Harrah's.com or WorldSeriesOfPoker.com that you're playing at. The player pool is going to be huge. It's going to be huge, yeah. And for every one, U.S. player that has had, who's sophisticated and has skills, you're probably going to get 4 or 5 who never would have deposited because they didn't trust PokerStars or Full Tilt.
Yeah.
So I actually think it's kind of a moot point, and not that big of a deal that they block out, the rest of the world. And probably over time they'll probably, as they become more competitive, they'll probably allow the rest of the world in because it's more revenue for them, right?
Yeah. I think if Full Tilt, 2 years ago had said, okay, we're changing our policy so that only U.S. players can play against U.S. players, but nothing had changed on the legal landscape, that would be bad.
Right.
But if you can only play against U.S. players, but it's completely legitimized and opened up, and every poker player in Middle America knows that they can get online and play and easily cash out and easily deposit,
right?
Then I don't think it's that big of a deal because it's going to bring in so many bad players.
Absolutely, and to that effect, a couple of Europeans chimed in the thread and saying they were jealous. Jealous, and they were like, "Wow, we're actually jealous. You guys are in great shape if that's the case." So I think there's still a lot to be determined there. But the last piece of the puzzle here that I want to bring up is that they're not only did they go to are they in Washington this week and they're actively pushing legislation, but Joe Barton, who is a Republican representative from Texas, he's a Tea Party representative. He's putting together a bill that he expects to introduce in the next 2 weeks.
Wow.
Which is huge. Because think what you will of the Tea Party, they have power right now. They're growing power, and they are an introduction of a poker bill from a Republican senator from the South.
Right.
Is a gigantic thing, positive right step for us. And if you go to this guy's site or, I've seen a video of him talking about poker. Guy loves to play poker. He says, what the hell? People want to play poker. And, I think he's representing the ideals of the Tea Party where, freedom and, once again, think what you may. We're not a political show. So whoever your opinion is on the Tea Party. But the ideals that they they propose in terms of the freedom of people to do what they want are represented well in this bill. And I think that people, I think they can position that to the benefit, our benefit. And coming from that side of the house is a huge deal. It's not, Barney Frank, trying to get this through, the moral majority. It's someone on the other side who has traditionally been against poker bringing this up. Yeah,
and I don't care where the bill comes from, if it's Republican, Independent, or Democrat. I don't care who introduces it, as long as it happens.
Yeah, I mean, I don't care based for the end result, but I do care because I think where it comes from gives it a better chance to pass. And, this gives it a better chance to pass. We don't have to convince these guys; they're in.
Yeah.
So a lot of positive momentum in the past week. So I'm an optimist to a fault. I think sometimes I'm going to be optimistic here. I'm going to hopefully we see something. When I talked to our buddy Tomic right after, and I said I believe 6 months and 2 years, he thought I was crazy and he wanted to make a bet, and I was trying to get 5-1 odds from him, and he probably would have gone to 3-1. And I think, quite honestly, I think 5-1 was actually not good enough. There are a lot of hurdles. I think I was being optimistic, but I think I'll take 5-1 today. I think it's looking better. So
certainly sounds like it.
Yeah. So that's how it's affecting us. That's the situation today. And that's the bringing you up to date. I know this podcast lives for a little while, so hopefully maybe some of you download this a week or two from our recording, and there's significant progress.
Right.
For those downloading it now, that's where we are today on the 13th.
Yeah, and we've obviously had a lot of questions from Tournament Poker Edge members about what this all means for the site and things like that. Obviously, we've posted in the forums and stuff to let people know that nothing has changed for Tournament Poker Edge, other than that the owners of the company aren't as happy at 2 a.m. on a Wednesday night because they can't play poker.
Yeah.
But we're moving forward relatively business as usual. I mean, obviously it's not great news, and it provides certain challenges, but we're going to continue to provide content at the same pace we have and the same quality we have. We're going to continue to bring on the best pros we can to make videos and provide content, and we're just going to keep rolling forward. I mean, I think a lot of our members have already started to kind of transition over to playing more live tournaments, and many people now are kind of coming back 2-3 weeks later now and saying, well, I had kind of given up, but then I saw everybody was playing on Carbon and Bodog and stuff, so I made a little deposit, and I made my first final table last night. And so, I think that there was a sort of a 2-week cloud that hung over everybody, but now I think everybody's kind of seeing the sunlight, and they're coming through, and they're starting to play again, and the chat room's starting to fill up, and we're starting to see more sweat threads and stuff like that. So
yeah, I mean, I got to tell you, I've been very pleasantly surprised as to the level of cancels that we've seen, on the site. I mean, we expected people to cancel if they couldn't play, but it's been way less than I think we expected it to be. I think for the reasons that you've said, just a lot of people are, hey, I'm going to study, it's my downtime. It's not that expensive, right? I mean, it's not like we're asking, it's not like it's a ton of money. You can still play live. You can still deposit on Bodog and Merge, and Cake, and, people aren't necessarily leaving, that quickly. So that's great. And we appreciate the support from the community. We're going to keep, as Derek has said, we're going to keep moving forward. We're going to introduce some more live type of content, especially as the World Series comes upon us. We're going to put some theory videos out on live play and talk about some live hands and put some videos together on that. So look for that. And we'll also be introducing some pros from other parts of the world. That was part of our plan anyway, and just it makes it even more meaningful. So for those of you who are from South America or the UK or whatever, you'll probably see some pros that are from your part of the world, just because it's easier for them to play on the bigger sites. But our own pros, we haven't really had a problem making videos. We released Cougars did a Bodog series. Hagbard Celine is going to be doing a Merge / Cake series coming up soon. KC and T-Twist are in Canada, so we don't have to worry about that. Wein we're going to go back and do some more. He has some hand history review from his 750K final table recently, and he's going to be doing some of those Sunday Million. We're going to do together the Sunday Million table review, and I think that's a kind of his best videos anyway. He's great and fine live, but I think he really excels at hand history reviews and that commentary that we do. So
yeah, those are great.
Yeah, it doesn't really hit him that hard. And then Hit the Panda is in Panama right now, getting ready to play Scoop because he's mobile, he's young, he can move around a little bit more than a lot of the other guys. So we're gonna get live sweats from him. So all in all, from the TPE, original pros, not much of a difference there, and we're just gonna be supplementing a lot with guests and whatnot over
Yeah.
or months or years or whatever it takes until there's regulated online poker in the U.S.
Yep. So business as usual at Tournament Poker Edge. So
Correct.
cool. Well, speaking of which, we're going to bring in a few of the pros here in a minute to talk about what they're doing now post Black Friday.
Right.
And just kind of sort of get a status report for them, from them. And we'll talk about some of these things a little bit further with those guys. So we'll take a break, and we will be back here on the Tournament Poker Edge podcast.
Hey MTTers, this is Casey Big Dog Pocket Fives Jarzabek from TournamentPokerEdge.com. If you've been looking for a trading site dedicated exclusively to tournament poker, then look no further. Tournament Poker Edge is only $23.95 per month, with no initial sign-up fee, and we post a new training video every weekday. You'll also find poker-related articles, blogs, and very active strategy forums. We even offer you the ability to upload your own video for others to discuss. So head on over to TournamentPokerEdge.com and find out why it's quickly becoming the destination for tournament poker players looking to take their game to the next level. TournamentPokerEdge.com.
All right, welcome back to the Tournament Poker Edge podcast. Please welcome to the show, Wein and Hagbard Celine. What's up, guys?
Hello. How are you?
Thanks for joining us. I know you guys are very busy, probably getting your grind on over there. Probably got a huge session to play. Get ready for Scoop.
I haven't left the house in a month.
That's not true. You go to Chester.
I mean, no, I've been playing a lot of live.
Yeah, I know. I know. I've seen from following you on Twitter and stuff that you've been going over and playing at Harris Chester. So you're playing pretty much cash over there, then, Wein?
Yeah. I'm trying to be honest with myself and start out, relatively low since I haven't played a lot of cash. Mostly a tournament player. Been trying 1-2 to pick up reads, but I can't win at 1-2. But when I decide that I want to play 2-5 or 5-5-10, I've had one losing session out of 15.
That's funny. Do you think it's because you're just having a hard time carrying about a $200 stack at 1-2 or whatever it is?
No. I've been sitting there trying to be as serious as possible. Because like I said, I just don't have that much experience with cash being 100 big blinds deep, so I've been trying to take it very seriously, but it just seems like I get on the wrong end of coolers or whatnot in 1-2, whereas...
Yeah. I mean, your sample size can't be big enough for that to mean too much.
Yeah, it's definitely just obviously variance in my favor at this point, but it's just been funny that my 1-2 stats, I'm down probably $700, but at 2-5, I'm probably up $7 or $8 grand.
Yeah,
that should have happened.
I'm sure
earlier.
It'll come around. Yeah, exactly.
How are you finding the games? Are they as soft as you thought, or?
I mean, it really depends. Sometimes I'll sit at 2-5, and Ryan Bluff and some other regular will be there, and it won't be the easiest game really at all, and there'll be other internet kids that you could just tell are pretty decent, but really depends on what time of the day you go and all that stuff. I think that really affects the quality of players you're going to get.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Charlie, what have you been up to since Black Friday?
Not Not that much, honestly. I got pretty down for a couple weeks, like probably a few days after the dust kind of settled, and it became pretty clear that, that we weren't going to be playing online poker on Stars and Full Tilt for a pretty long time.
Mm-hmm.
But the past couple weeks, I've sort of been coming to terms with it, and just been grinding on Merge and Broadway tables, and also I live in Burlington, Vermont, and there's actually a pretty good little poker community here. There's a game that goes off just about every night. Most of them are small; they're just 1-2 games, but there's a 2-5 game and a 5-5 game as well. So I've been playing those.
How are you finding Merge so far?
Well, I mean, Merge is unbelievably soft. So is Broadway tables. It's almost like it's kind of like stepping back in time.
Yeah.
It's like
right, with bankrolls and the play and like the turning selection, doesn't it feel like 2006 a little bit?
Yeah.
It's like, I'm gonna go play a couple $3 tournaments and my bankroll's $400, and everyone's like, oh, okay. It's like 2006 again.
When I go to Delaware Park, which is the casino in Wilmington or close to Wilmington, it feels like I step into a cash game from like 2006. Like just like the way the people play their hands and whatnot, like it's just incredible. You'll see like some guy, he'll like blinds will be 2-5, he'll open to 15 when he's got a hand like a suited connector or like a little pocket pair that he like wants to see a flop with, but like can't help himself, like but have to raise. But then he'll have something like 2 aces, and he'll make it like 80 pre-flop. And then he'll be like 2 aces, and he'll like show, and I'll be like, you onto something. I also decided that since I'm unemployed now, I decided to get engaged.
Hey,
congratulations.
Congratulations.
I figured,
always make decisions under duress. You should.
I figured I might as well lock that up now.
Yeah.
Good point. Don't let that one get away.
Yeah, so that's basically what's been going on with me.
So obviously we're all heading to Vegas for the World Series here pretty soon. So we're kind of not in a huge rush to necessarily figure out what's next for any of us as far as poker goes. But have you guys given any thought to what you're going to do long term? Like, say online poker doesn't come back in any serious way in the next year or year and a half. Have you figured out what you're going to do, or are you just going to wait and kind of feel it out?
It's kind of funny. I was telling this to Diego not too long ago. Like, it happened at the worst time. It's far enough away from the World Series where I can feel that I'm doing very little. I feel very lazy, but it's not far enough away that I could really go out and find a job.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point.
But no, I'm holding off until the World Series is so big that, anything can happen and my situation could change dramatically. So I'm trying not to think too deeply about what I'm going to do. But, if I am where I am now, when I get back, I'm just going to, look for a job and maybe consider going back to school.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been in interviews with a financial group, figuring out if that's something I want to pursue, doing investing. Everyone that I've talked to has basically said, I will probably look for a job, or I'll probably study abroad. Move abroad in order to play. But everyone is still banking on the World Series. They're like, well, if I hit a big score, I don't know what I'll do.
Right.
And there are enough bracelets to go around, so.
Basically, if you don't win one of the 60 bracelets, unless you're one of the lucky ones to win one of the 60 bracelets or whatever there are, you're getting a job starting August 1st.
Yeah.
Right.
Now, let me ask you this. Let's look at the horizon. You guys weren't on the first segment, but I talked about some positive momentum towards regulation. I don't know if you guys have seen the American Gambling Association is lobbying in Washington this week.
Yeah.
And they just released a report last night at 2 a.m. On their recommendations for legalizing online poker, which seemed very well presented, very well. The best case I've seen, better than the bills I've seen from, Reed or Barney Frank or anything along those lines. It's the best case put forward, I think. And Representative Joe Barton from Texas, who is a Tea Party candidate, is introducing a bill in 2 weeks, apparently, which, there's still a lot of work to do and nothing is certain, but I think it's some of the best momentum that we've seen since the whole Black Friday thing, and it gives us a little bit of hope. Let's look at the horizons. If poker comes back if you knew poker was coming back in a year, what would you say? What would you do? If something happened in the next month before you got the next job, are you going to hold out? Are you going to, still get a job in the meantime? And what are you guys thinking as far as that?
It was something where it was only a short-term thing where, we knew when the timeline was, I could probably see myself grinding cash live for the year.
Right.
Just to, obviously it's not something I like to do. I'm not really happy doing it, but it is it's a new challenge. It's not something I'm used to, so it could be exciting for a year. And then I would hop back into it, I think. But if it's something where it's still open-ended after the World Series, I'm not going to stick around.
Right.
For me, one thing that Black Friday really struck me with was the fact that I haven't given myself a wide variety of options outside of poker. So I think even if it were a year on the horizon, I would still probably look at going back to school and make that my top priority of having a solid backup plan for when poker does come back around. I would start playing poker again, and I would continue playing in the meantime. But I think I would still look to go back to school and just get a degree that would give me some better options.
That makes sense.
Right.
Yeah, I think for Derek and I, we're doing what we do, right? So we'll just, if poker, when poker comes back, we're going to be thrilled, but I don't think we're changing much of our life plans because we just play whatever's available.
Yeah, I've started playing a little bit of cash too in some of the underground games here. Just 1-3 basically, but it's like Wein said, it's like a new challenge, and it's actually been kind of fun to learn a new game. I used to play there once every couple of weeks just to get out of the house because I don't get out of the house much. But now going out and doing it 3 nights a week, I can actually feel my cash game getting much, much better.
What's the rake like in those underground games?
It's like $6 cap or something.
I guess that doesn't seem too bad. The rake in the couple of the 1-2 games that run here are atrocious. Really?
Yeah, I think it's 10% with a $6 cap.
That's basically what it is at the casinos here. It's like Harrah's is $5 rake, 10% of the pot up to $5, and then take $1 for the bad beat jackpot, which is the biggest joke ever.
Yeah.
So $6 basically every hand that gets raised pre.
Yeah, the hardest part about it is that you have to be in there for the long haul because at least at the game I play at, you get the drunk guys who roll in about 2-3 a.m. and sit down with a couple $100 to spew off, and you just have to be willing to stay there till 5 or 6 a.m. because that's how long they'll keep rebuying. So
yeah,
it makes for long nights. It's not like online where you can kind of play and then just I feel like stopping now. It's almost like playing tournaments again where you're kind of you're locked in. When you start a session, you're locked in.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to make good money, you can obviously get up anytime you want. But
I did a session yesterday where the game, I actually got up because I didn't think I was a favorite in the game. By 3 in the morning, it was just a really tough game.
Yeah.
I just cut my losses. I was like, all right, I'm down. It's a 1K. It's a 1K. The 2.5 is a 1K max. And I was down $400 or whatever. And I thought the game, the hour before, it was pretty good. But it became clear to me that it just wasn't that good of a game, and I just decided to leave. Just being stuck. It just is what it is.
Yeah. It's one thing about this post Black Friday period is I think a lot of people are going to learn a bunch of different skills that they didn't necessarily feel like they needed to learn before. Game selection and bankroll different bankroll management parameters than there used to be, and how to play cash, or how to play live versus online. So it's certainly not a good situation, but I think there's some learning opportunities there for anybody who was just strictly playing online tournaments a month ago.
Well, let's talk about some of those online tournaments. I gathered a couple of hands from been playing at Merge. First thing I want to talk about is the structures, because they're definitely different than what we're used to with Stars, and it's affecting the play. And as a matter of fact, all the hands I picked are hands where I have under 10 big blinds, because I'm finding myself with under 10 big blinds way more often than I did on Stars and Full Tilt. And a lot of that, what I'm observing is, I have 22, 23, 24 big blinds, and I'm like one of the bigger stacks at the table. And then if you lose a flip to someone with like 12 big blinds, then all of a sudden you have 8 big blinds or 7 big blinds. And that's happening way more often, I guess, just because of the structures. So I gathered a couple of hands where I'm under 10 big blinds, and I faced decisions where I was a little confused. But the first thing I want to talk about is to talk about those structures. So let's start with you, Charlie. You've been playing on Merge a little bit, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I've noticed that the blind levels will go from like 10 to 12 minutes mostly, and I'm just pulled up like the 2K $11 freeze out that happens at 8 p.m. Eastern time or something like that. Have you? What are your thoughts on the levels? Have you had to make any adjustments? What are you noticing? When are you getting to shove mode, re-steal mode? Is there anything that you've noticed so far from your play?
I feel the same way you do. I mean, the structures, they just move way quicker than we're used to in like non-turbo tournaments on Stars and Full Tilt, where they had gotten to a point where tournament players had become and there had we had grown to a fairly big community of these regular tournament players who were very vocal about what we wanted in terms of structures. And that was all pretty much focused on the 3 sites that got shut down.
Yeah. Right.
Those voices weren't really heard by the Merge Network or Cake Poker.
Yeah, I mean, we're not even really starting with 3K.
Although Cake, I will say Cake is a little better because Lee Jones was there for a little while.
Yeah.
And they have a handful of, I think, some pretty decently structured tournaments.
But
they probably have the best structured tournaments.
I would agree with that. But they get like 14 runners is the problem. They have the they have the smallest traffic.
Yeah. Although they still have some big-ish Sunday. They have a couple decent Sunday tournaments. Merge has one decent Sunday tournament. It's like a 50K guarantee that gets almost 20K for first.
And I saw they just raised the guarantee on that to 100K for this coming weekend, I think.
That's great.
Yeah, so that's a good sign.
I think Boat Dog has the worst structures of them all. I know you guys don't play on Boat Dog, but they usually start with 1,500 in chips, which once again makes you feel like it's 2006 again. You get 1,500 chips. Let me see if I can pull up the levels here. Their software is really kind of clunky. Trying to pull up the blind levels. It works sometimes. It doesn't work other times. Yeah, I can't pull it up. But you start with 1,500 chips, and even the non-turbos, it changes the way you have to play because you can't open as much. You have to really. It's hard to open hands that you're not. Once you get to 25, 50, or even 50, 100, now you're playing with 15 big blinds pre-ante.
Right.
So I find that a little weird, a little bit of an adjustment. Fortunately, I think the play is really bad. I just consistently get it in with Ace King versus Ace Queen or Ace 10 or something like that. When I have 15 big blinds left, people are just not, opening appropriately or calling shoves appropriately, which is the best thing I think I've seen there. They're calling much lighter than they should be. But the structures themselves are so that's the first thing for everyone listening. Strategically, you're going to find yourself in much shallower situations, less starting stacks for the most part, and much faster blind level. So you got to get used to that and adjust appropriately.
I'd like to go on a Wein gen for a second.
Okay.
We love Wein gens.
So basically, these tournaments, like you were saying, it's so funny how you're saying it's like going to 2006 again, because I remember when tournaments first started on Stars in like 2003, 2004, and there'd be, everyone would start with 1,500 chips, there'd be missing blind levels, and these cash game players would get so mad because they're not getting any of the publicity, and they thought they were so superior because they know how to play 100 big blinds deep, and in these tournaments, you were basically hovering between 10 and 20 big blinds for the duration, so the people that won them, weren't supposedly a test of skill. I think it's a different skill set than cash, but, that is what it is. But then, over the years, tournament structures got so good in the beginning that the difference between cash game players and tournament players, like in terms of skill set and playing deep stacked, diminished greatly, where we were almost on an even playing field.
That's really interesting.
Because we were all playing, we were playing these 10K Bellagio events, 15K Bellagio events, 10K World Series events, where you start with 30,000 in chips at 5,100. That's 300 big blinds. And all of us adjusted, all these W Coop events, all these scoop events where you're starting and playing 500, 600 big blinds deep, we all learned how to adjust.
Right.
So, I was listening to a podcast on Poker Road the other day, and it was cash plays, and there was some guy, I had no idea who he was, but he's like, tournament players, that are going to be playing cash games, they're just not as good. And I'm thinking in my head, do you not realize over the past 3 years that we figured out how to play deep stack poker?
Right.
Right.
That's a great point, Wayne, because I felt that way. Like when I would sit down to play cash in 2006, 2007, I really felt like completely out of place. Like what do I do? I could fold to a 4, but I don't know, it just felt weird. I didn't know what to do with my stack. It just felt like I was getting myself in bad situations because I was way too deep stacked for what I was doing. But today I sit down and I'm like, all right, I felt much more comfortable playing with 100 to 200 big blinds because you've just done it so much more. To your point, it's a great point.
Yeah, we all have experience with it. We all, have ideas. And conversely, this is what pissed me off. The guy's like, I don't know who he was, whatever. I'm probably picking a fight. I don't care. But he's like, yeah, I think I'm going to be playing a lot of tournaments now. And put up my live scene, and I'm like, do you know how to push fold,
right.
15 big blinds optimally? You're the one stepping into my domain.
Right.
You're absolutely right.
You just have to be honest with yourself. I understand that cash is a different game than what I'm used to, and that, I need to make adjustments, but I do have an idea of what I'm doing, and the difference in skill set between the two, in 2006 to now has, diminished significantly.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not to say that somebody who's been playing cash for 5 years isn't somewhat better than somebody who's been playing tournament for 5 years at deep stack poker. But you're just saying that there's not this huge chasm between the two where you're completely incapable of playing 400 big blinds.
Right. In 2006, when you're playing online, you have 20 big blinds. You got it in with ace king always, but people were also getting it in with 300 big blinds with ace king, right, because they just hadn't adjusted. But that doesn't happen anymore.
Yep.
Yeah. We know how to play we know how to play different streets. We know how to, mix up our games. We aren't scared when the turn card brings a flush.
Right.
Wait, we're not?
The whole argument on, who's better, cash or tournaments or whatever, it's just a different skill set, but the skill sets, just based on how the structures have changed, have just, they're just not as vast as they once were.
Right. Yeah, good point.
Love that point. It's great.
And I think to that point, when you're talking about the bad structures that exist now in these U.S.-facing sites, tournament regulars are going to have, I think, the variance is going to be higher because stacks are shorter. You're going to have to get all in more often, but I think your edge in the long run is going to be bigger.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you start out, our edge when playing pre-ante, and if we're tournament players, is not as high as it is as our ability to push fold and call correctly. We have been doing that for tens of thousands of tournaments.
Yep.
Yeah.
We just get that shooting now.
I find myself, I play. I'm not playing every night. I'm playing like 2-3 nights a week, and I'm loading up between 4 and 6 tournaments. So it's definitely not the volume, and the variance is much higher.
Your kids must be so confused.
Like, who is this guy?
Wait, this is the mythical dad creature we see on TV?
I think my wife is more confused. Like I used to play after the kids go to bed. Now I'm on the sofa. I'm actually watching awful things like American Idol. So I want my poker back, please. But like I've noticed that they're just so soft. I find myself at like the final 2 tables, like every other tournament, and I'm exaggerating a little bit, but like, the fields aren't big, right? So it's usually like...
Right, the fields are smaller.
Fields are small, so it's like 250 people, but like, I find myself at the final 2 tables or 3 tables all the time. The problem is, I got 20 big blinds every time, and no one has anything bigger. We got like 25 big blinds, maybe someone has 40, but most people have like 8 or 9, and it's because, it's giant shove fest, and I think I'm doing it properly, but the variance is so high on that, and you'll see from some of the hands that we talk about, that it's just, it's easier, but that variance is just much higher based on the short stacks. You just got to get used to it. And unfortunately, we can't spread 20 tables. So it's going to take longer for the good players to get to the long run.
Yeah.
And, but you're also playing, $5, $10, $20 tournaments. You're not dropping $2,000 in buy-ins every night. So just an interesting dynamic. It does feel like 2006 all over again, and, let's see what develops.
Yeah.
Cool. So, I have a couple of short stack hands because I just found myself in some slightly uncomfortable spots that seemed easier back in the day, a month ago. So if you guys don't mind pulling up the hands, for those of you who are listening, as always, we've posted some hands on the TPE website, tournamentpoker.com/podcast.
Almost a Freudian slip on that one.
Yeah. I was just down. I was there all day, all morning, following this AGA thing. So I've been focusing on that.
Wait, can we? I don't even know if this should be a part of the podcast. Has Full Tilt said anything?
Full Tilt has said that they would make an announcement the week of the 15th.
Because I saw on Twitter that guy KevMath was like, Full Tilt's expected to make an announcement in the next couple hours. Then I went to sleep and woke up and didn't see anything.
Yeah, their last communication was the week of the 15th. So if there's anything that's happened since then, I haven't seen it.
Oh my! That's the one spot where I have money on.
Yeah, I haven't seen any updates of any substantial level from them either.
Fair enough.
Unfortunately.
All right, so I have a couple hands here where I'm short stacked. This podcast has been mostly about Black Friday and moving forward, but we do want to keep some strategy in line, and I came across some short stack spots that I want to talk about. So if you guys look at hand 1, these are all from the Merge Network. Hand 1, I have Queen Jack in middle position, and here I am with 5.7 big blinds. So once again, can't remember the last time I found myself with this short of a stack. I lost a flip here, I think, to someone. I had probably like 25 big blinds, and I lost a flip, or maybe I had 18 big blinds. I don't remember, but we are in middle position with Queen Jack off, and we have a limper. So normally, if it's folded to me here, first of all, if it's folded here to you, I assume we're just shoving Queen Jack.
Yeah.
That's what we're gonna see.
Yeah, for
okay.
sure.
Right, just clear that out of the way. But now we get a limp from this guy. What position is he in? He's under the gun +2, and he has 15 big blinds, and he limps. But now here's the thing: there's so many bad limpers on Merge.
Man, you're not kidding.
What's up there? What's that there?
I said, man, you're not kidding.
No, there's just so many bad limpers on Merge, and then they fold, just inappropriately. So this guy limps. I have 5.7 big blinds. I have Queen Jack. What are we doing here? Are we just going to go with it, or do we fold? Or can we fold? Can we afford to fold? Are we going to see something better?
I would fold unless I had a pretty solid read that he was capable of limp folding to a stack like ours.
Okay. Do you agree, Wein?
Yeah, I am on the Hagbard train on this one.
Yeah, I think I would shove that with more chips on merge because
I kind of
people
hate
do
that
limp
with
fold
more
rather.
chips. I kind of hate making a shove like this where in general I would not shove. Like I don't want to count on somebody making a big mistake unless I have a good reason to believe that they will.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the crucial. I think the crucial part here is that we're counting on him making a big mistake. I think you're right. But what is he limping with? I mean, is he slow? Like, do we think he limps Queen King and calls?
I mean, I don't. I really. It's hard to say because, like you said, there's a pretty wide variety of kinds of limpers.
Right.
Yeah. What's the buy-in for this tournament? Do you know? Seems like it's a 33, maybe, if I remember right.
This is actually, I'll tell you one second. No, it's not a 33. I think it is a 33. You're right. Sorry. It is. It's
Okay.
a $33 tournament. Freeze out.
Yeah. Yeah, so, I mean, you might have a little bit more competent players at this level, too. I mean, I think, like I said, if you have more big blinds, you might have more options for what to do here, but I don't think he's going to fold very often.
All right. I just find I don't think he's doing this with ace queen. Maybe with king queen. Maybe with queen 10 or probably
It's
not.
It's hard to say though because you have people who play a 23 style where they're limping everything that they want to play with the exception of like really strong hands.
Right.
And then you have people who are like, sorry.
Whoa.
I thought you were being abducted by aliens there.
I was. I have an appointment with aliens.
I literally pictured like a beam over your head pulling.
I thought the crickets are back.
All right, so, you guys, I think you guys hit it dead on. I shoved, and he had queen king and he called, and I hit a flush. So, fuck him.
Oh.
Donk.
That's the way to do it, right?
Rather be lucky than good.
Exactly. Okay, next hand. Back to the Merge Network. This is a $11 turbo freeze out. You can look at the table here. Everyone is between, for the most part, 10 to 20 big blinds, except we got one guy with 37 blinds. And this is like the common situation in Merge. Would you agree, Charlie? Look at those stacks. I feel like
Yeah.
it's always like when you get to the ante level.
Yep, exactly.
It's just flipping. You're just flipping it, and definitely we should have edges here. So, this guy with the actual, he's 3X's. It's the guy who with the big stack. He's an MP1. He has 37 big blinds, and he full 3X's, which I don't read anything into that because I don't know if they know enough yet to go 2.2 or whatever. And he makes a 750 to go at 125, 250, and it's folded to me in the big blind with king queen, and I have 11 big blinds, and it's king queen suited. I assume we're just going to jam here, right? We don't care, do we? Well, I'll leave it to you guys to answer that.
You go first, Charlie. Let's see if I'm on the train.
Did you first ask if it was folded to you?
Well, if it was folded to me, 11 big blinds well, it can't be folded to me because I'm in the big blind.
Oh, you're the big.
You get a walk.
I would fold here because I'm not sure that we have any fold equity. He has a big stack, and you only have 11 big blinds, so I don't really see him going to full 3x and then folding.
All right, that's why I put the hand up because it is a full 3x. I mean, no, we can't really read.
And we're 10-handed, and he's relatively early position.
Right.
Well, early middle position, I guess.
And he has a big stack, so he can call me. I mean,
Yeah. And still be in pretty good shape.
Right. What about you?
Yeah, I don't think you're. I don't think you're ahead of his range, and you're not getting any. You have very, very minimal fold equity. So, I'd rather just wait for a spot where I can jam.
Okay. Oh, I jammed and he had ace jack, so the hand up. Well, that's not why, but that's you guys.
Oh, and you hit a flush, right?
Nope. Unfortunately, I was not able to magically make my will happen here. Okay, so cool. And then one more hand. This is a slightly different spot. Here we are. This is a $20 rebuy on Merge. We're post rebuy period because we're at 250, 500. We are in the button. We are on the button. We have 9.4K, so we have about 19 big blinds. And we have an under the gun 6 max, right? So under the gun with 20 big blinds, min raising to 1,000. No read on the guy. And we have 20 big blinds on the button with king queen off.
I jam.
What about you, Charlie?
I think you have fold equity in the hand. If you do get called, king queen usually plays pretty well against the calling range. You're in a 6 max, so he could be opening real late, and his calling range should be pretty tight. He's probably opening, 25% of hands, 30% of hands, and he's calling like 7% of hands. So it's definitely going to be profitable from a chippy V perspective, and it's good for your tournament EV as well. So,
Charlie, what do you think?
I agree 100%. It's 6 max, like you said, so yes, he's under the gun, but it doesn't mean nearly as much when you're playing 6-handed. He's been raising, so probably shows that he has a clue.
Yeah.
So he can.
That actually was one of the things that really tipped me off. That's a really astute observation, is that he min raised. So at this point on Merge, you could still kind of get information from people on how they open. There's much more information to be had because there are wider variances in opening sizes.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's one of them. So I shoved, and actually he called with queen 10. He called 20 big blind shove with queen 10.
It's a value jam.
Yeah, it was a value jam, and it held. So yeah, that was a situation where I wanted to get your thoughts on that. It felt like the old days, actually.
Yeah.
Someone 2xing, right, with
Yeah, that's another. Yeah, you see people like getting it in with like ace 9 and ace 10, which it used to just be a dream back in the day.
Yep.
People just getting in with ace rag. And,
it's boggling my mind, the proper calling frequencies.
Yeah.
They're just not calling appropriate at all. It's been lovely, and that's where we're making our money, I think, right now.
Yeah, 2 things I would suggest if you're going to delve into the Merge network is get your shoving and calling ranges down, your push fold game, and also take a lot of notes because you'll run into a lot of the same players because it's such a small player base.
Yep.
So just really pay attention and take notes, and especially because you're not playing as many tables, it should be easier to do that. So
I agree, and you should go to our site. I did a free video on just the networks in general and setting up your tables and the software and the game selection. So you can set it up where I think Merge, of the remaining sites, I think Merge has the best software. And if you tweak it properly, it's definitely conducive to multi-tabling and people who are used to playing on the bigger sites. It's not the same. It's not as good. But, you could use your HUD if you use one. And you can sort of set it up so that the cards are big. You got 4 colored decks, etc. So,
yeah.
So cool. So we want to get a little strategy in there. It's just something I noticed from playing there for a couple of weeks now, the shallowness of the tournaments, and just kind of cover some short stack play. So I think that's those are the hands I brought here today, guys.
Well, we'll take a quick break here, but I do want to say thanks to Charlie and Wein for stopping in as always. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Later.
Thanks, guys.
Cool. So like I said, we'll take a quick break and we'll be right back here on the Tournament Poker Edge podcast. Hey, this is Killingbird from TournamentPokerEdge.com, here to tell you about our exclusive rakeback program. Tournament Poker Edge offers up to 40% rakeback on sites such as Full Tilt Poker, Absolute Poker, Ultimate Bet, and Cake Poker. If you're playing online and not getting rakeback, you are just giving money away. So visit rakeback.tournamentpokeredge.com and sign up for the Tournament Poker Edge rakeback program and start getting paid to play today.
The lens that's older.
Welcome back once again to the Tournament Poker Edge podcast. As always, want to thank our pros for stopping in, Charles Sizemore, Jonathan Wein. Always nice to have those guys come in, and I guess especially now to get their thoughts on where things stand with online poker and Black Friday and everything else. So nice to hear from them.
Yeah, it's always interesting to take their perspective, which is different than ours, because we don't play for a living.
Right.
So hearing the different stories is pretty interesting.
Yeah, it's I just know that it's been really tough for me not to be able to play as much. I know we've talked about it, so I know you're kind of in the same boat. So
yeah.
You can only imagine if it was your sole source of income. Yeah. I can't really fathom having to deal with the stress of that.
Right.
So.
Right. Well, hopefully the positive signs we talked about earlier this week gain momentum.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Yeah, as you said, the legal landscape looks to be shaping up, maybe better than we thought it would 2 weeks ago. So.
Yep. Still a long way to go, though.
Yes, definitely. So in the meantime, obviously we'll just keep playing on some of these smaller sites, which obviously we talked about some of the differences with those, and a big one being the structures and how things, especially late in the tournaments, change.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought that was interesting. I mean, we didn't go. We spent most of the time because of what happened on Black Friday talking about Black Friday, but I definitely noticed the difference here in these structures and the stack sizes, and like I said, all of a sudden I find myself losing a flip and having 8 big blinds, and since everyone has pretty much between 10 and 20 most of the time, that's going to happen a lot more. And
right.
What do I do with 5 big blinds here? And it's a serious consideration because your tournament life is your tournament life. So 5 big blinds, you're going to get called so much. You have very little fold equity that you really have to think about the equity and the calling ranges behind. But then it gets all confused because the calling ranges are different on the Merge Network and Bodog and Cake, because they're not as sophisticated players as Full Tilt and PokerStars. So I think the equilibrium is still being worked towards, where
right.
people start to, where your own perception of the equilibrium or whatever is being worked out right now.
Yeah.
But room for a lot of mistakes for people to be made to take advantage of. So.
Yeah, I do think that, obviously deeper stacks would give a little bit better of advantage to better players, which I like to think our listeners probably are.
Yeah.
But I think if you have your push full game down pretty well, you're still gonna dominate a lot of these late games.
I actually think I think the EV for good players is probably higher here, because I think the range between play is worse on these sites. But I think, as Wein said, the variance is just higher. So you're going to have a wider band. So a good player, where on Full Tilt and PokerStars, 20 to 40% ROI is pretty good at this point. Obviously the best players have a lot higher, but running an ROI around that range is pretty good for a high, profitable mid stakes. Whereas on Merge, your ROI is probably, for a good player, that 20 to 40% player is probably going to be about 50 to 75, and I'm just pulling numbers out of my head. This is just sort of guesstimating, but with that range of 50 to 75% ROI, you're going to have a band of variance that's much wider, where that 20 to 40% player on Full Tilt or PokerStars maybe loses money across the course of the year, maybe 12% of the time. Mm-hmm. They'll probably lose money 20% of the time on Merge or Rodog or Cake, just because the variance is much higher.
Right.
So, and the game selection smaller, et cetera, all those things that make variance higher but profit higher.
Yeah. Yep. So it'll be interesting to see. I'm looking forward to our members starting to post more hands from these sites in the strategy forums and stuff, just to see what they're experiencing and what kind of play they're running into. And I'm sure that a lot of people are going to find the same thing we've found, but it'll still be interesting. It's kind of like a new world out there.
Yeah, I mean, it does feel, like I said, a lot like 2006. I got a couple $100 on each site. The selection isn't that great. There's no synchronized breaks on Bodog,
Right.
Bathroom breaks again. Hopefully it ramps up back more. Are you thinking of playing that? I know the Merge Network has a $100K $109 tournament on Sunday. Are you thinking of playing that?
I think that I might take some shots at it down the road, but not yet. I still want to, like we talked about, none of us have deposited a whole ton of money on any of these sites. So I still want to build the bankroll up a little bit more. I just don't know if I'm ready for that kind of variance yet.
I'm way more degen than you.
Yeah, well, the nice thing is...
You're like, yeah, you are.
That's definitely true. And both of us have said that we're willing to redeposit if need be. So it's not like the bankroll that we have on there is the end of our online poker cash. But I don't know. I've kind of enjoyed the challenge of trying to build this up and rework my game a little bit, and also just play really close attention to bankroll management. So I'm almost enjoying. That's become the challenge as opposed to, because you're playing like $2 and $11 tournaments and stuff.
Right.
So the challenge has become more about building the bankroll and less about winning individual tournaments. So I'm just enjoying that for now.
Yeah, I could appreciate that, but I still want to play it.
Yeah, well, the value is going to be great.
Value is going to be great. I'm not playing it because I have a work trip next week that I have to go on, and I have just too much stuff to do Sunday. But I would probably play it if I could.
Yeah.
Just because I miss 100K tournaments.
Right.
I looked at it. I was like, oh my god. I was like, it kind of feels like the old days. Even though 100K guarantee on Stars at 4 p.m. or 3 p.m. on a Sunday would get like 400K. But
right.
That's what it is.
Well, when I'm sitting in Vegas this summer with all the other TPE pros in our house and they're all grinding a Sunday, I might not be able to resist it then. So we'll see what happens.
You're probably swapping percentages and stuff anyway, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe sell pizzas.
Yeah, whatever it takes.
Yep.
Cool. So I guess we should talk a little bit about what's going on Tournament Poker Edge. And I know we've kind of talked a little bit about the direction we're going to be heading, but maybe get into some specifics.
Yeah, I think we kind of talked about it. This week we got the PLO videos starting back up. We got some lock merge / cake from Hagbard coming out. He talked about. We have the reverse stick it to the man coming out soon. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, we haven't. I don't think we've mentioned that to anybody yet.
So why don't you, since you've participated in it?
Yeah, it was really fun. It was actually it was John Wein's 750K run on Full Tilt, and which he final tabled. And so basically, like the name alludes to, it was sort of a reverse stick it to the man where I got to watch him review his hand history and sort of question his plays and ask him what he was thinking here or there. And it's not quite a stick it to the man because it's not like I was ripping on him, because I don't really feel qualified to do that. Yeah. But it was I think it was good for both of us just to have me sort of commenting and questioning his plays and why would he do this or why would he do that. So I think it's pretty interesting and maybe something we'll toy with a little more in the future.
Yeah, I'm definitely interested in that. And what I also want to address, I think there's such a divide between loving and hating Stick It to the Man series. So for those of you who are listening to this that aren't familiar, we have a series called Stick It to the Man where Derek or I will record a session and we'll basically play as if we were making our own video, and then we give it over to the pros and they comment. And that's better than hand history because you can hear our thought process as we go along. It's instructional, but we also have some pretty funny pros.
Yeah.
Not for nothing. The guys are pretty funny. So they rip on us, which I don't really care. It doesn't really bother me. I actually have gotten so much better from this this series. Just it's easy to hide the hands that you play really bad. It's just kind of easy to do that if you wanted to, and it's really hard to hide the really gross mistakes you make.
Right.
You made an ace-king mistake. We talked about, I think, one previously. You made a real bad mistake there, and you got ripped for it. And, the thing is, we all love each other. I mean, quite honestly, we're a really close group of friends and as well as business partners here. So it's not personal and it's all fine. But some people just really, don't like that there's humor involved there, and some people love it. So
yeah. Yeah, and I can definitely understand where maybe somebody who's new to the site or hasn't watched a ton of videos, and they watch one of those and they go, yeah, man, these guys are being hard on this guy, but it's definitely meant to be sort of, I don't know, 75% instructional, 25% entertainment, or some breakdown along those lines.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you, I mean, it's been incredibly helpful for me, and even just little things, like I know in my first ticket to the man, like, I got ripped for checking the lobby too much, so I've stopped that. And then and the most recent one of the big things is that I tend to just ride those radio buttons too much, where it's like,
right.
I might be in the cutoff or something, and I'll just hit fold before Under the Gun is even acted.
Yeah.
So I've eliminated that bad habit from my repertoire.
Yeah. It's the things that you don't even know that you do that, maybe they're not even questionable to you, which make the greatest difference in your game, the biggest leaks, I think.
Right. Yeah, because you might realize, like, my post-flop play is not real good, or I got some bet sizing leaks or whatever. I think those are things you might actually know about yourself. But then there's those little things, and they're the things that people tend to make the most fun of. Like, those become the riding jokes, the lobby checking.
Well, when Big Dog is horrified by a play, it really makes you notice. And I'll tell you, this tough love sort of criticism that we get in Stick It to the Man, way back before TPE was a thought, way before I knew you, before I was even a profitable player, I was getting some coaching from a very good pro, and we talked about how to play overpairs on the flop when the flop comes, undercards. I'm sorry, how to play big pair pre-flop when an overcard hits the flop. Sorry, that's what it was. So I had queens.
Gotcha.
We talked about hands like where you have queens and a king hits the flop, and you're deep stacked, and we talked about pot control, trying to get the showdown, generally not loading the pot, especially if you're out of position, etc.
Right.
And we finished a lesson, and then I played a tournament. Was back when Full Tilt's Sunday major was 500K, and I actually got backed for it by this pro. And I remember the same, exact hand just like this happening, and me sending him the hand history and asking, I was kind of, lost on this hand, and it was exactly what we covered in a lesson a day ago, and I completely botched it. And he wasn't a jerk or anything, but he was like, dude, we just covered this.
Yeah.
This is the hand. This is exactly the concept we just went over. And I was like, oh my God, he's right. Like I should have completely not botched that because we had covered it. And this guy was backing me for this tournament, right? So I was really embarrassed.
Yeah.
So that really stuck in my head, just the concept of pot control and showdown value from that point on, because I was embarrassed. Right.
Right.
And I really don't make that mistake ever again. So, that's with qualification there, obviously make mistakes, but I really got that concept because of that mistake. So anyway, don't worry about us. We're fine.
Right. Yeah. I think the point is that, some people love it. Some people hate it. We're not telling you have to love it. If you don't like them, just, skip on to the next video. But there is some good stuff in there. So make sure, if you can put up with the braiding that we take, watch the videos and get some out of it, because there's a lot of good info there.
Absolutely. I also want to say good luck to all the TPEers who can play Scoop and are playing right now.
Yes. Sometimes I forget it's even happening.
I know. It sucks. I know one of our members, Celos, Pesellos. I don't know how to pronounce that. I think you would say Celos. He finished 5th in Scoop event 15 low, the 1650 second chance for 10K.
Oh wow,
and
that's awesome.
He posted on the site, thanks to TPE. So I wanted to give him a shout out and congratulations on that.
Very nice. Yeah, and obviously the World Series is coming up, I guess a little over 2 weeks from when we're recording this. So, to anybody who's heading out for that, good luck.
Yep.
And make sure and keep us informed. Post on the site, tweet, whatever you got to do, but let us know how you're all doing out in Vegas, and we'll obviously do the same.
Absolutely. We look forward to seeing you guys. Hit us up. We'll all hang out. We'll all be out at various points. We want to hang out with you guys.
Yep. Don't be strangers. So, cool. Well, I guess we should probably wrap it up.
Yep.
Another podcast in the books. So thanks again to the pros. And that's it for the Tournament Poker Edge podcast. Take care, everybody.
Good luck.
Like they do in Texas plays. Fold them, let them hit me, raise it, baby, stay with me. Luck and intuition, play the cards with base to start. And after she's been hooked, I'll play the one that's on her heart.